my friend. After some time, about 2 years later, we find that all the countries of the world have united to create a protection system for planet Earth. This system consists of a large number of satellites connected to each other through a vast network, covering the entire planet Earth, and its purpose is to detect anything entering planet Earth. Because you see, after what happened, my friend, the whole world is in a state of panic. As a result, a complete organization was established for protection against space threats, and this organization is military, led, of course, by General LeBridge. But, despite all of this, my friend, we now see that the Sol ship belonging to Haakon is literally in front of planet Earth and has easily breached the satellites without anyone knowing of its presence. After that, it launched a small craft and sent it to planet Earth. This craft, my friend, landed in the sea, and here we saw that there was a person inside. This person is Haakon. Why he came down and what he's doing, only God knows. In general, 4 months after all of this, on the other side, we find Yulya, my friend, living her life. Or not really, because Yulya, currently, due to everything that happened to her recently with aliens and so on, has become very, very important. So now, she always has guards with her, all of whom are her father's men. In general, she currently goes to school and spends a boring school day with her friend Google. Then she takes herself and goes home, but with her father. The idea here is that they don't go home. Instead, they currently take Yulya to the Russian military testing facility. And that's what he says, of course. Anyway, he left Yulya there to undergo some tests, while he went to talk to the scientists. The scientist now said that when the aliens left, they left behind one of their suits, and we are currently conducting tests and experiments on it. But we haven't reached any conclusions yet, except that it's very strong. As for your daughter Yulya, we need you to bring her in very often, so we can study what this strange power she has acquired is, because of the images, and what is this significant connection between her and the aliens. He didn't want his daughter to be subjected to excessive experiments, but he eventually agreed. Yulya was restrained in a pool, with a doctor speaking to her through a microphone, trying to provoke her to the utmost. Why? To see, no matter how much he provoked her, what is the maximum energy she could reach with the bracelet she has. And indeed, the more this doctor provoked her, the more the energy emitted from the bracelet increased, until finally, someone she really dislikes, Artem, approached her. Artem, my friend, due to the loss he suffered and the shock he received from Yulya last time, literally had a stroke and is now almost paralyzed. But despite all that, as soon as he saw Yulya now, he kept trying to apologize to her and let her know that he didn't mean everything that happened with her and that he didn't want to kill her, but was actually targeting Haakon. At that moment, Yulya truly reached her limit and was extremely terrified, and a sudden energy burst out of her, creating massive vibrations all over the place. Her father sensed it and immediately took her away from the scene. Artyom was also removed from the scene after everything that happened. Yulya was extremely terrified to see Artyom here after all these years. She was upset with her father for allowing all of this to happen. Therefore, she asked him to leave her alone, and also told him that she would go up to stay by herself and wanted no guards. Her father couldn't argue as she was terrified, and left. Once outside, he brought one of the soldiers whom you could call his right-hand man, named Ivan. The important thing is that he told Ivan to disguise himself, watch over his daughter from a distance, and protect her unnoticed. And that's it, sir. Later that night, we see Yulya sitting in a bar, drinking and drinking. And of course, the important thing is that during all this, she felt that Ivan, who was sitting behind her by the way, was one of her father's soldiers, so she gestured to him from afar, as if she was saying to him, I know you're with my father, so don't pretend to be in disguise. At that moment, Ivan told her, I'm not working for your father, but I respect him a lot, and I have to protect you for his sake. And he was about to continue speaking. Then, my friend, Haakon entered the scene and wanted to take Yulya and leave from there. Of course, Yulya didn't know this, so he started to confront him, wondering who this Haakon was who came to take Yulya from him. But at that moment, Yulya was surprised to find out that it was really Haakon. So she hit Ivan on the head, knocking him unconscious, and she and Haakon left. As soon as they got out, they got into an electric car where they were a couple heading home. Everyone was surprised, but the car began moving on its own, trying to escape quickly from there. At that moment, Yulya learned from Haakon that my ship was controlling the car remotely and was going to escape. Indeed, the car sped off, and Ivan actually woke up and was riding a motorcycle, chasing them. The important part is that then the car stopped to let the couple out. After that, he continued maneuvering with Ivan until he knocked him off the motorcycle, then took off and completely escaped. He called the father, your daughter was kidnapped from me, and the one who took her is someone named Haakon. At that moment, he was extremely terrified and immediately realized that the aliens had returned. So he started contacting the Air Force to intervene. Now, on the other side, they drive to a remote girl in the forest. And there, finally, they calm down a bit and enter this house. When Julie entered the house, she was surprised that Haakon lived here. At that moment, he told her, I am after I left planet Earth. My condition was very difficult and I was almost dead. I stayed on the ship for a whole week, which is equivalent to 2 full years in Earth time. And when I recovered, I found that the ship hadn't left your orbit because I couldn't endure the journey back to my home planet. So when I recovered and passed, I came down to Earth and I've been living here for 4 months now. She then asked him, why didn't you return to your planet when you recovered? And at least, why didn't you come to me when you arrived on Earth? He replied, because I didn't know how to come to you at all. Especially since if anyone saw me, they would know that I had returned to Earth again. But when I sensed you in the lab, because of the vibrations that came from the rebels, I came to rescue you. As for why I didn't return to my planet, because of my coming to Earth, meeting you all, and my love for you, Yulya. All of this was wrong and against the laws of my planet, and therefore I can never return again. At that moment, Yulya calmed down a bit and accepted what was said. The problem, my friend, is that at this time in space, we see the ship being consumed by a much larger ship. And this ship is actually from Hakun's planet, by the way, and it's coming to fix everything he messed up. Anyway, the next day, Yulya woke up and called her father via video. She told him that she was indeed with him, yeah. They were going to get married, leave this entire planet, and move on. She called him just to say goodbye and leave. Of course, they bid farewell to Yulya normally and went along with everything smoothly with her. But as soon as he hung up, he ordered his soldiers to trace the call and send troops there to bring Yulya. Indeed, after a while, soldiers approached the house where Yulya was. At that time, they called Hakun to get instructions from him. He told them to lower their weapons and bring them safely. But however, the mothership, now in space, hacked Earth's satellites and altered the voice to make it seem like he said to finish everyone off and kill them. The forces stormed to Yulya and started fighting with them, trying to kill them. He was going crazy because the forces wouldn't listen to him and intended to kill his daughter. So he took some soldiers with him and went to save his daughter. As for Hakun, he attacked soldiers, took Yulya, and they ran towards the lake in front of the house. And there, the ruler of the lake emerged, his spaceship which he had descended with from space. He immediately boarded it, and Yulya was about to join him. She was shot, but Yulya quickly took her and flew away from the place at maximum speed. The idea is that the matter didn't stop there. And suddenly, the air defense forces fired missiles because they received orders, even though the one giving such orders was completely against it. And literally, he is now driving at maximum speed to catch up with his daughter. At the same time, he's going crazy as he keeps asking the soldiers to stop the attack, but no one listens to him. The other problem is that at this time, the soldiers were returning to his prison, so he distracted one of the soldiers, put on the suit, and immediately escaped from the place. As for Hakun, he kept on escaping. He kept trying to ask his ship to explain to him what was happening. The mothership responded to Hakun and told him that it was destroyed, and if he wanted to return to his homeland, he must die. At that moment, Hakun cut off communication and continued to flee. But suddenly, helicopters appeared and kept shooting at him until they literally hit him with so many missiles that his ship was thrown completely out of the water and onto the ground. And at that moment, there was another plane that was about to finish them off completely in his suit at the last moment, grabbed that plane and kept hitting it until it was completely destroyed. And yes, Artin didn't come for revenge, he came to correct the mistakes of the past. Anyway, after what happened, he took Yulya because she was injured, as we know, and went with her towards the ambulance, where he had left a suit, and was also sitting by the ambulance. When he saw Hakun with Yulya injured beside him, he wanted to help. So he told him, now we're going to need a lot of water, and the rebels themselves will treat her, and they'll do it well. Immediately, they took them and quickly stopped a car from someone who was driving on the street, took the car, and went to get water. On the way, he kept asking why the police and army were attacking, or when you didn't do anything, he told him. Because that's not the army. He said that a ship from our planet called Rast took over the ship of Sol, and they are the ones who want to kill us, especially Yulya, because I loved her and also gave her my rebels, and all of this is a breach of our protocol. Therefore, the ship will penetrate all the satellites and copy anything in order to kill us. And literally, it was the one that actually gave orders to the army to kill us. And no one will be able to know that Ra was the one who gave these orders, not the army. And it can do many things because it has all your information, which it took from the satellites. Of course, this talk is literally very absurd, but he continued on his way. Now, on the other side, Hakon's vehicle had arrived, but it was too late because it was empty. Of course, he was surprised, because he knew that the currents were following this vehicle, because Yulya was in it. So where did they go? Anyway, now he's taking himself to the Ministry of Defense because there's an urgent meeting with the Prime Minister. When he entered there, everyone was upset with him, saying, "You're the reason for everything that happened." At that time, he was surprised and said to them, "I want to know who gave the orders to launch missiles in the middle of the capital." So everyone now knew that he was the one who ordered it. After that, they played a recording of his voice giving those orders. Naturally, he was going to go crazy, but he understood everything. Now, when they all looked at the television, Nemo was saying that a massive residential area in the capital had been bombed and many people were injured and killed. And the one who did this was Yulya. Then they played a doctored video of Yulya, saying that she was the one who did it, and that the previous alien attack was also because of her. The video ends at this moment. He realized that the aliens, her colleagues, had hacked their satellites and were able to access their images and voices, copying whatever they wanted and creating all these fake versions, like Yulya's video, or even the news anchor saying that a residential building exploded. Even the orders coming out in the voice of the Prime Minister. When he heard this, he went crazy and ordered everyone to completely stop electronic transactions and only use electronic things that the aliens couldn't control via the satellite, like landline phones or paper messages. And that's it. Phones were taken away from everyone in the meeting and they started discussing how to destroy the alien ship. This time, they infiltrated them from every side, ending up in Artyom. Hakan and Yulya arrived at the supermarket, and there Hakan went in and got a large amount of pure and clean water, of course. But the thing is, on his way back, the fire was messing with everyone's minds. People were getting calls from their families telling them to find Yulya and kill her, while others were seeing news on television. A fake news anchor appeared, saying that Yulya was the one who planned all of this and that we need to get to her. And of course, all these things were fake. At that moment, he ran quickly, got back in with Artyom and Yulya, and they escaped from there completely. Where did they go? They went to Google's house because he was the only one who could help them now and distinguish them. The big problem was that at that time, the assistant received a call from his wife telling him that their building was blown up by Yulya and their son is currently in the hospital between life and death. Ivan, my friend, was shocked by this call and literally couldn't distinguish between reality and fiction, especially since he can't leave his duty now to check on his family. The problem isn't just with Ivan, by the way. But the ship has currently breached all the world's systems, and now everyone wants to kill Yulya by any means possible. For example, at that time at Google's place. So Google, my friend, actually hid everyone at his place. So the first thing they did was put Yulya in the bathtub, covered her completely with clean water, and then left her with the bracelet so it could heal her on its own. As for them, they managed to sit together to have a meal. The idea here is that during the meal, Artyom kept challenging Hakan to drink a lot of alcoholic beverages until he literally passed out. Artyom told Google, "We now have to take him and hand him over, so that Yulya and I can be safe." Of course, at that moment, Google agreed, not because he was a traitor, but because he was a coward. He left Yulya at home and took Artyom and Google, and they headed to the Ministry of Defense. Indeed, after a while, they arrived there, and immediately he came to them, very angry with Artyom, and asked him, "Where is my daughter?" Artyom told him that she is at Google's house. At that moment, he ordered his soldiers to take Artyom and Google, while he continued to plead with him to give him the ship's coordinates map so he could destroy it. Hakim agreed to help him. Before they continued, he quickly went to Ivan's house to get Yulya from Google. He took Iman, found Yulya passing by, and immediately left. He was very upset about his family, and Yulya, next to him, was the reason for everything. Yulya sensed his upset, asked, and he told her, "You caused the building's destruction where my wife and son were. And currently, my son is between life and death. But if anything happens to him, even your father won't be able to protect you from me." He continued to the Ministry of Defense, but he was surprised when he arrived to find a very large protest in front of the place. They are all now demanding the army to hand over Yulya, even though Ivan could have thrown Yulya to the crowd, because he was holding his gun and threatened everyone not to approach Yulya. Then he took her and went inside the headquarters. At that time, he had already learned the coordinates of the ship from Hakan. So he immediately ordered the entire ministry to strike that ship with one of the largest nuclear missiles they have. The missile was launched immediately, and within minutes, it literally reached the ship and hit it. At that moment, everyone was extremely happy, and they were even happier when they saw his daughter coming in with Ivan to his house. He was just about to thank Ivan for bringing his daughter. He submitted his resignation and informed him that he wouldn't be able to serve him anymore, knowing that he was protecting his daughter despite everything she had done. So when the gentleman told him that all of this was a lie and she hadn't done anything wrong, he didn't believe it and left. Overall, everyone thought that the path was destroyed, but it wasn't. So now he picked up his phone and contacted the ship, and she responded saying, "I was dealing with you kindly to resolve the issue, but it seems that nothing will work with you except force." She immediately finished talking with her and quickly released another video of Yulya saying, "You forced me to do this, so bear with it." Immediately, the ship descended to the ground, and with all its might, it started creating a massive wall of water around the city where the Ministry of Defense, which houses Yulya, is located. As soon as it began drawing water from all over the world and forcefully pumping it into the city, the water level in the city increased at a rate of 300 cubic meters per second. At that moment, the planes went up to attack this giant wall of water, but unfortunately, it didn't work, and everyone looked around to find that the sky was covered with water. Literally, the ship decided to kill everyone by flooding the city with water so that everyone would drown and die. At that time, it was said that unfortunately, this city would be completely submerged within just 20 minutes. But he realized that this was the end. Unfortunately, he lost this battle after Artyom, Yulya, and everyone else got on helicopter currents to try to escape from here. As for him, he grabbed the microphone and started broadcasting all over the city, telling people that he was sorry he couldn't do more than that. But now all that's required from the remaining people is to hold out for as long as possible by hiding on high rooftops or getting on any boats they have. He finished his speech, feeling sad, but suddenly behind him, Hakun said to him, "Didn't I tell you to go with Yulya?" He replied, "Yulya is safe now with Artyom, and I will stay with you because I have a good plan." He took Hakun aside and said, "If you can get me my vehicle that Yulya and I were escaping in, I can take it and move at high speed closer to the ship. Then I will blow up the vehicle while I'm inside it there, and consequently, it will explode too." At that time, he took his ship, because, by the way, he had brought it here to the ministry. After that, he bid farewell and set off, leaving the remaining workers and soldiers, and he stayed alone here directing Hakun on how to move right and left, because of course, Hakun wouldn't be able to see anything in the water. And he also couldn't activate any satellite features, so that it wouldn't control him. The important thing is, he kept telling him to go right and left until he was almost at the ship, and here he bid him farewell and hung up, because the water reached the pedestal and started consuming the entire place. As for Yulya and Artyom, they were on the plane just as they were, but suddenly the plane crashed because of the water. But thank God Artyom and Yulya got out safely and stood on the rooftop, and Yulya saw the entire city was flooding. She knew the ship wanted her dead. Publicly, she started screaming, "I am Yulya, the one who did all this to you. Kill me." And the people started to approach her. They said no one should touch her and kept hitting anyone who got close until Ivan arrived, who, by the way, was very angry because he received a fake call that his son had died. So he pulled out his gun and shot Yulya. But unfortunately, it hit Artyom and he died. As for Yulya, she kept pleading with Ivan to kill her because everything would be resolved after her death. And she kept trying with all her might to provoke him into killing her. But he refused because now they were all going to die. So, my friend, suddenly the water rose significantly and the whole city flooded before Hakun could act. But of course, we know that the rebels with Yulya won't let her die. However, if she stays in the water like this, she will suffocate and die. Therefore, the rebels created giant hands from the water, and these hands kept growing and growing until they grabbed the ship and kept pulling it up, completely stopping its effect. At the same time, on the other side, the army kept hitting with all its might using the missiles they had. Finally, the ship was truly destroyed, the water receded, and people started breathing again. Thank God he also didn't die. Of course, he also didn't complete the mission and returned, and he was able to reach Yulya afterwards, and they were both happy. But unfortunately, they were sad again when they found Artyom's body lying on the side, because Artyom truly corrected his mistakes and helped a lot. Anyway, after all that happened, days passed, and we find everything returned to normal. Currently, many people are standing in front of Yulya's grave, because in front of the whole world, my friend, it had to appear that Yulya had died. But now, after people left Yulya's grave, he took himself and boarded a plane to go to his daughter, who was living with him in a very remote place away from everyone. And currently, he brought her dog to her, and she was very happy with it. After that, she bid farewell to her father and informed him and Makin that they would leave this planet and go to a place where no one could find them again, so that no one would cause them any more problems, whether from here or from another planet. But they summoned Yulya and Hakun to the ship they would use to leave, which was the sun ship, Hakun's ship, which Hakun had salvaged after it was destroyed. And the movie ends, my friend.